our nations, the innovations that shift our economies, the culture that colors our lives, the challenges we face with honesty, and the victories we are building one story at a time. On this show, no topic is swept aside. We are unfiltered and we are intentional. We bring you experts from across the continent and the world. Voices that know, voices that live the African experience, voices that are shaping the next chapter of our story. Let your spirit rise. We don't just tell Africa's story, we own it. Join Joy Asonye on Razep Africa, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Global Television.
Hello there, many thanks for joining us on Razep's beautiful morning. And as usual, we'll start with the news, the African news update, and then get to the story that's making rounds. And today we'll be focusing on Africa. Nigeria is on trial. The battle over real-time electronic transmission of election results is conversations making round. To get into that interview and that conversation right there. But at the moment, we would go for a short break. When we return, it will be time for the African news update. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show.
Welcome back from that. This is the African News Update, and today we begin in the Horn of Africa, where Somalia has signed a new military cooperation agreement with Saudi Arabia, deepening its regional security partnership. The deal was signed in Riyadh, between Somalia's Defense Minister Ahmed Mualim Figi and his Saudi counterpart Prince Khalid bin Salman, and is aimed at strengthening defense framework, military cooperation, and shared strategic interest between the two countries. The agreement comes weeks after Somalia signed a similar defense pact with Qatar, as Mogadishu looks to bolster regional support amid growing regional political tensions, including concerns over Somaliland's status. While details of the Saudi deal remains limited, officials say it reflects Somalia's broader push to strengthen its security capacity and reinforce alliances in the Gulf and the wider Arab world. Meanwhile, in East Africa, Tanzania and Russia are moving to deepen strategic ties following high-level talks in Moscow. Tanzania Foreign Minister Mahmoud Thabit Kombo met Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, delivering a letter from the President Samia Suluhu Hassan to President Vladimir Putin, reaffirming Tanzania's commitment to expanding bilateral cooperation. Russia welcomed the growing partnership, highlighting cooperation at the United Nations and within the broader Russia-Africa framework. Talks also include discussions on trade, defense, energy cooperation, and the proposed third Russia-Africa summit as Moscow continues to strengthen its diplomatic footprint across Africa, with Tanzania emerging as a key partner, of course, in East Africa. Turning to regional diplomacy, Sudan has announced its full return to the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, that's the IGAD, ending a 2-year suspension from the bloc. Khartoum froze its membership in early 2024 after IGAD invited Rapid Support Forces leader Ahmed Hamdan Daglo to peace talks, a move Sudan's army-aligned government viewed as a violation of its sovereignty. As Sudan returns following renewed engagement with IGAD, leadership and a statement from the bloc reaffirmed Sudan's unity and condemning violations committed by the RSF. IGAD officials say Sudan's re-entry is a step towards restoring regional cooperation at a time when the country's civil war continues to destabilize the Horn of Africa. However, the Sudan conflict is increasing, drawing neighboring states. In just another update, Ethiopia is hosting a secret camp to train thousands of fighters for Sudan's rapid support forces, marking what sources describe as the first direct evidence of Ethiopian involvement in the war. The camp is said to be supplying fresh recruits to the RSF as fighting escalates in southern Sudan. Sources have alleged that the camp was financed by the United Arab Emirates, a claim the UAE has denied, of course. Sudan's war, which erupted in 2023 following a power struggle between the army and the RSF, has already displaced millions and triggered famine, raising concerns that deeper regional involvement could further widen the conflict. And in West Africa, Guinea-Bissau's main opposition leader, Domingos Simios, has been summoned to appear before a military court over alleged links to coup attempt. Pereira, leader of the PAIGC party that led the country to independence, is accused of involvement in coup plots in late 2023 and October 2025. Although he was released after being detained during the November coup that ousted President Umaru Sissoco, Pierre remains under house arrest over separate financial crime investigations. Guinea-Bissau has a long history of political instability, having experienced 5 coups since independence, with poverty, corruption, and drug trafficking continuing to undermine democratic governance. Finally, in Kenya, health authorities are grappling with a growing outbreak of Kala-Azar, also known as visceral leishmaniasis, a deadly neglected tropical disease. Cases have more than doubled in a year, rising from about 1,500 in 2024 to over 3,500 in 2025. With climate change blamed for expanding the habitat of sandflies that spread the disease, medical experts warn that Kala-Azar is fatal in up to 95% of cases if untreated, yet diagnosis and treatment remain scarce in affected arid regions. Treatment is lengthy and costly, placing it beyond the reach of many vulnerable communities, as health officials call for urgent investment to prevent a wider public health crisis. And that's it for the Africa Global update right here. In the studio, we have Simbiat Amzat right here to discuss what's going on across Africa. I mean, there's so much to absorb right there. But I think the very last one is a bit concerning.
The outbreak of disease in Kenya.
Exactly.
Yeah, because this was how we started with cases like Ebola, the COVID-19 cases, and now we have another new outbreak. When I read this story, I saw that it happened, is about something that is a disease that is long neglected. It comes as a result of having neglected cases in Kenya. Now that we have this disease, I believe that, okay, authorities will step in. Of course, health authorities, they are already trying to curb the infection, because reading it too, I saw that it had no cure per se. Once it attacks, that means death. That automatically means death. So it's a really growing cause for concern in Kenya.
Exactly. And unfortunately, because we do not have that very active medical or health facilities, and that's why you could see that sometimes when there's outbreak of such diseases, it takes longer for it to be addressed.
And then before it even gets addressed, it had already spread across, or even way more than Kenya, and then it goes to other African countries, which is really
and
sad.
There's something that we keep forgetting. As long as there is information, as long as we can have people understand these diseases, you would see that we will curb it faster. One of the problems a lot of people often say about Africa is how we treat lives. Do we respect lives? There are certain certain parts of the world rather, where somebody said, if 3 dogs in a street die, 3 dogs in a street in, say, America, for instance, die suddenly from an outbreak of something. If it now turns to be, say, 30 dogs in a street die from an outbreak of something that they are unable to see, you will see how veterinary doctors will come up to see how they can treat it quickly.
For dogs,
there will be I'm talking about an animal here.
Yes.
There will be an outcry that this should be curbed. A dog has died, and people will be so sad. You will see the national attention and concern that 30 dogs have died. But in Africa, it's often as if we expect these deaths to happen, and there's something called visceral leishmaniasis.
And then if you look at this disease, it affects the world's poorest people, and it's majorly because of neglect. I think if we begin to start studying the little patterns before it gets to the case that we are now diagnosing it as a big disease or a big outbreak, it could be in the little patterns, like maybe a slight cough or maybe cold or fever, but because we don't pay attention to it, like you said, we just think that it is normal, maybe because of climate change or because of the weather, and then we just think that it is normal until it becomes a full-blown infection.
Very sad right there. People are losing lives of their children especially, and I just hope that something indeed should be done immediately, especially in Kenya. I was trying to read if it's something that could thrive in other parts of the world, or if...
Of course, there have been cases in India,
exactly,
cases in Brazil
so
too, as well.
that's what I was about to say, that the weather also determines how other parts would address this. But I also remember that when we talk about AIDS, especially in the health sector, when it affects Africa so much, you don't seem to see that global need to curb it. Oh, they are coming with aids and interventions to help curb it. But when it becomes a pandemic and all of that, so I'm just calling on whoever cares to be helpful right here to help the people of Kenya. It's unfortunate that we are recording this many deaths and the spread of this Kala Azar, as it is called. So I would also like to discuss the escalating conflict in Sudan. And what's going on there at the moment, where we are seeing, conflict increasing and drawing in neighboring states. It's quite unfortunate that Ethiopia is meddling enough to be recruiting, like it is alleged here, thousands of fighters for not the Sudanese army, but for the Sudan's rapid support force.
And then hosting a secret
Exactly.
What they call a secret camp just for the Sudan rapid support forces. When we look at this story, it's been going on for quite a long time, and I think it's...
No, but Ethiopia had never accepted its meddling. It has never accepted that it is contributing at all. At this time, for a very long time, it has never been this obvious that they were supporting the RSF. It has always been that, we are trying as much as possible to be neutral. but this is making it obvious.
Behind the scenes. But now that although this has not been confirmed, it's still like alleged because it's secret, like they said in the news. It has not been confirmed and it is not yet in the open.
Absolutely.
So we cannot really say if it is. We cannot even say.
Yeah, we're waiting to hear the responses from Sudan, from Ethiopia, to say whether or not this is indeed going on. It will be good to hear what's going on. And again, Somalia, it's good to see what's going on there. Military cooperation agreement with Saudi Arabia. Okay, Saudi Arabia, military cooperation and all of that. I mean, we always are open to this cooperation, call it military, economic, or trade ties, or whatever you may call it. But are we opening again? Are we opening up for invasion?
No, but I think there's something in it for Somalia, because
absolutely,
looking at
always
it,
at the beginning there's
they
always
just
something
recently signed a pact deal with Qatar, and now in the same vein they are signing another deal with Saudi Arabia. Is it that they want to use the power of these countries to like strengthen their own economy or their country at large, especially because they've suffered years of crisis, war, and also they are having issues with sovereignty.
Absolutely.
So I think maybe it's a welcome idea, maybe it's something to be concerned about. Time will tell, like you always say.
Yeah, but for somebody like me who's watching from the sidelines and deepening its regional security partnership with this, we see that in Nigeria at the moment. I mean, we also here on the show reported how Nigeria has a small military troop from the U.S. That's how it was phrased at the time. A small military troop from the U.S. is in Nigeria at the moment. And did you see that very viral picture and videos of some of the troops that were trying out our I think it was fisherman soup, and Nigerians were like, see the people that came to help us. See the people that came to help us, you know. And that was quite funny. And it's good that, you know, they are trying. It's not about guns.
But this Somalia case is a two-way, is a symbiotic relationship, if you ask me. Because if you look at Sudan, if you look at Somalia rather, and Saudi Arabia, they both have something to gain. While Somalia is trying to like use their strength to deepen their own regional security partnership, then Saudi Arabia on the other hand is using the deal rather to strengthen their own cause in Africa, because from Somalia they can easily also have access to other African countries. So it's a two-way thing between both countries at the moment.
Okay, well, I am not sure if having access to other African countries at this moment for Saudi Arabia and Qatar is particularly a good thing. We are opening up so much. It's like saying, again, I understand the structural deficit, security deficit, I mean, in terms of the architecture and structure that we have, but I am always skeptical when help comes from. See, no one has, at no time in history have you had to be at the receiving end of anything. And no time in history are you at the receiving end of anything and then you are considered an equal partner. Nobody respects the beggar. Nobody respects the person receiving. Everybody, as long as you are receiving, you are always at all times going to be at the mercy of your giver. That's what I'm saying. And so what is the need for Qatar? What's the need for the UAE for this military and security partnership that we keep hearing? America is having inroads into Venezuela. What's the need for America apart from this moral justification that we keep hearing? Oh yes, Venezuela has bad leadership. Venezuela has been trafficking drugs, and but what is the need for you? This is a sovereign country. Attack those who are making it, you know. And we've had these conversations over and over again. What's in it for America for sending in troops, small troops, however small or big the troops may be in America, in Nigeria, what's in it for them? Those are the questions I always want Nigerian and African leaders to address before these strategic cooperation partnerships and all these buzzwords that are used when we are discussing this in Africa and the partnerships and agreements we often have. So yeah, we move down to Tanzania, still talking about Tanzania and Russia. They are moving again to deepen strategic ties. What's in it for Russia is the question I would always ask, where the president, of course, is, according to them, committed to expanding bilateral cooperation with Russia. What is in it for Russia? What is in it for Russia to come in here, to come into Tanzania and ensure the cooperation that we often see?
It's just like the first story, and then now it is Tanzania and Russia. Is there something that is there, I don't want to say maybe that like there's a war coming and everybody just wants to align quickly with.
Yeah, I mean, we've had speculations of, oh, be ready, there's something impending or not. Do Africans even know how strategic the partnership with us is? Are we negotiating from a strong place?
Yeah,
it's just a question.
I'm not from the
receiving end. Because, okay, hypothetically speaking, if everybody is trying to strengthen alliances with African countries, has Africa looked back to say, let us also think of us? What do we want as a continent?
There's something that we have that maybe
that the world wants.
That the world wants. And if we can even use it to our own advantage.
Exactly.
We could even use it to strengthen. We could even form alliance with other African countries, Nigeria and Ghana. Maybe we could even do it within ourselves instead of having to rely on foreign countries.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what I keep saying, that have we understood the leverage that we have as a continent enough to have a proper argument or disagreement from a place of leverage? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves when we keep discussing these agreements and cooperations and partnerships and all the buzzwords that comes with foreign countries. Deepening
strategic ties.
Exactly. And like I was saying, there are instances where, speaking about the loan part, where okay, we are here, and that's why I would always call the Ugandan president what you may. There's something that he's doing that I wish other African countries can do. He's stopping aid by 70. We read it, 85%.
Yes.
85%. He's cutting off aid, and he's stopping loans.
And then we were worried about how Uganda was going to survive, how the economy was going to survive if they choose not to rely on loans. But then looking at it now, I think it's a welcome development.
Yeah, but he's developing ports, and the beauty is that now he has several ports that you could do business from a place of leverage. You want to use our port? Come, this is what you pay our government. Do you understand? And
the export rate will be exactly. And then it's another way to even bring in generate more income. Not
to mention the oil discovery as well. So I like what's going, and that gives me so much joy. I'm such an African that believes in Africa and loves Africa, that at the moment, each time I hear Africa understanding what they have and they can stand on their own, it gives me joy. And that's what I encourage for other African countries.
I agree so too. Especially because we've talked about it a million times on this show, that Africa, we can stand on our own. We have everything that it takes. We have the resources, we have the people. We also have the land mass, we have the flourishing economy to stand on our own. So I think more people are listening, and then there will be positive changes as time goes on. Absolutely.
Positive changes is all we are asking for at the moment. There's a funny story that I wanted to also share, coming from Africa as well. Burkina Faso parliament approves ban on political parties. That's a story that also was quite funny, that came out of Burkina Faso, where it says the transitional parliament on Monday approved a bill banning all political parties in a move observers say allows the military junta led by Captain Ibrahim Traore to consolidate control. The text, which received no opposition, of course, from lawmakers, repealed the Charter of Political Parties and the law relating to financing of parties, electoral campaigns, and status of political opposition. Political party activities have been suspended in the Sahel country since army seized power in 2022. So in July, the Burkina Faso, that's the Burkinabe authorities, enacted a restrictive new law on freedom of association, and in November issued a new decree requiring NGOs and associations to open and maintain cash accounts exclusively with state-run banks. A government minister, of course, has come to defend the ban as a reset which ends the polarization of the population, which he blamed on political parties. I just had to bring this up because shortly we will start discussing Nigeria and bans and all of that. But my question here is this obvious. I mean, when the coup happened, the initial statement was that, the Burkinabe people just want to reset the country. But if you're resetting the country to a point where you can live for democracy, you will not ban political parties. This now makes
all political parties, not even one, not even some,
all
political
parties are banned in Burkina Faso.
That would mean they are moving away from democracy and then returning to full military.
With the coup, it is obvious. But this obvious ban that lawmakers that's one thing. You know, when you hear people say, I don't mind the military coming into power, you ask yourself, do you even know what that means? It means
when you think it means that you absolutely have no say. Like
you have no say. Think of that lawmaker in that parliament that would have said, excuse me, we do not want we cannot assent to this law to ban political parties. Where do you think it will end up? In a military,
no opposition.
Exactly.
No opposition.
And so when Nigerians also tell you, we want a coup, we want
no, I don't think Nigeria is not ready. Nigeria is not ready.
Listen to Nigerians when they tell you, I think the military rule is even better than this administration. And I like the worst democracy is still better than the military, the best military rule. Because today we enjoy the freedom of this speech that we take for granted and sit here and criticize our president, criticize public office holders. We say as we feel. You know, there's always a need to not just to be careful, but to apply some sort of constraint so you're not abusive or you're not
because some people would say, there's freedom of speech is guaranteed. It's freedom after speech
that is not
guaranteed. But regardless,
that's what the military. That's actually a phrase that was I think that phrase was made popular by, was it the former head of state Abacha? Yes.
Okay.
And it's a military thing. You cannot say as you feel, and that's where we're seeing it in Burkina Faso at the moment. All political parties have been banned. So it's obvious that the people of the Burkinabe are now preparing and bracing up for their new reality, which is the military administration. We do not know to what end we would have that. It's good to know that he's having a strong control. He's not yet 40 years old, and he's a strong military man. We have also had a lot of Africans across the world commend him for his stance fighting off France and the hold France had on Burkina Faso. But the question here is, have you shifted? Because while he no longer has France, France is not as evasive in their resources. He's having strong ties with Russia, and the question is always, are you shifting your lord? Have you moved your lord, from France to Russia. Is this deal really better for the people of Burkina Faso? So that remains to be answered. But I just needed to bring that story right there because it was making rounds and it's trending at the moment. But it's time to go for a short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing Nigeria, and the discussion around premium time transmission of electoral results. We'll be right back to discuss more. Stay tuned. This is Razep Africa.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show.
Welcome back from that. This is still Razep Africa, where, as you already know, we take you through stories making rounds across the world and especially Africa in the bid to get you abreast with what's going on, not in just your country, but across this beautiful continent we call Africa. Now, our spotlight is in Nigeria at the moment, that is in a critical juncture ahead of the 2027 general elections, as widespread public dissatisfaction culminates in protests at the National Assembly in Abuja, Nigeria. On the 9th of February 2026, and promising to continue with that protest, hundreds of Nigerians, including civil society activists, youth groups, professionals, and high-profile political figures, such as Peter Obi, who was the presidential candidate for the Labour Party during the just concluded the last round of elections in 2023, converged outside the legislature to demand the reinstatement of mandatory real-time electronic transmission of results into the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2026. This protest has followed the Senate's controversial decision to delete the phrase real-time from provisions relating to electronic transmission of results, a move critics says weakens accountability, undermines transparency, and threatens the credibility of future polls. Supporters of the Senate stance argue that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, should retain flexibility over how and when electronic technologies are deployed, citing concerns about infrastructure, feasibility across Nigeria's diverse terrain, and legal redundancy. At stake is not just the technical clause in a legal document, but public confidence in Nigeria's electoral process, the integrity of democracy itself, and the legal codification of election technologies. This debate is rooted in Nigeria's electoral history of disputed outcomes, reforms after the flawed 2007 polls, and the long-standing call for electoral transparency as a bulwark against manipulation. That is what we are now discussing here on Razep Africa, as it is trending across the country at the moment. Simbiat is still here with me to do justice to this conversation, and later on we may be joined by a guest virtually. But Simbiat, let's get to this issue. Nigerians went to the polls in 2023 expecting electronic transmission, real-time, premium time. Real-time is not even doing it. Premium time electronic transmission of results. In some cases it worked, in others it didn't.
Well, in most cases it didn't work.
In most cases it didn't work. That's after the umpire had said that there were glitches.
Of course, you know, when you say real-time electronic transmission of results would mean that right immediately after the vote.
No, it means that as I vote, it counts immediately, and everybody can have access to that information.
To the results almost immediately after the election. Of course, there's possibility of the glitches because of the Nigerian factor. I hate to say it, but I don't think we are ready for the real time, like you said, like real time. Even you said premium time. I don't think we are ready for that kind of real time, because we always have network issues, we always have the internal glitches and also the external ones, but it shouldn't even be something to be worried about, especially if when it comes to election, proper plans and procedures should have been kept in place to make sure that nothing disrupts the process of the election.
And you know, those justifications that was given, that we still struggle with a larger dragnet of people who have access to internet. There are some communities across Nigeria that does not have access to internet, and so it must be. But it's one thing in my opinion to say, listen, we have challenges, we are working on those challenges, and I expect our legislators should be more interested in fixing infrastructures so that our elections will be as transparent as possible, to reduce the litigations that happen after every election cycle. Is one thing to say we are working on it, is another thing to say we are expounding that component altogether, meaning that Nigerians shouldn't even expect it, even in places that it worked.
Well, yeah, I think that's better, because removing the real time also removes the expectations that comes with it. Because if there's no real time, you don't even expect, okay, but you're sure that the election is going to be done free and fair. But when you put real time and then it doesn't happen like that, we are scared of manipulations that might have happened behind the doors or behind the scenes. We are scared that, oh, our vote might have been tampered with, or maybe the numbers are not calculated properly, which is a very valid concern as a Nigerian.
It is more than valid. It is very concerning that we are at a time in our electoral journey where we are no longer discussing improving our electoral process. We are rather admitting to flaws in infrastructure. I don't think it is right. And don't forget that we already have that distrust. I worked with several organizations during the last general elections where we were constantly trying to bring about trust within the young people, and not just the umpire now, but the public office holders. So this is very unfortunate that it is rather driving that nuance or narrative rather, that this administration wants to manipulate the outcome of events, of the elections. After they just concluded national elections in 2023, litigations were so many. There were so many litigations that,
especially after the system has been put in place, people expected that nothing should go wrong at that point. But then we still had, we had more cases.
As a reporter, you didn't know where to go, which one to cover and which one not to cover. And the beauty about the Electoral Act as amended is that it gave a limited time to finish up with litigations, and so it gave it was within the legal sector to ensure that it happened, and it did happen where it was fastened, it had to be done. Some of them rushed, but yes, eventually it happened and all of that. But these are issues I find very, very concerning if we are really serious about not causing voter apathy, because that's another consequence of
and also post-election conflicts, because till this moment we still have the conflict from 2023 election. We still have it lingering around in Nigeria today, to this moment.
Exactly. And thanks to social media, we saw videos of people who say this is our electoral result, and it doesn't tally. People say that. So if we have, and it's unfortunate that we act as if we cannot, it's rocket science. I hear people tell you that if POS can work in all communities, I'm sure there's a way. And in areas that is confirmed that this thing doesn't work, immediately you move away to any other area.
There should even be a swift alternative. There should be a swift and a faster alternative.
There are internet boosters. There are some devices. Listen, this is not the Stone Age. This is 2026.
The POS example you even gave is like a perfect example, because even in the most local
remote places, POS works.
So why can't?
And even if it doesn't work, and you have uploaded your result as you're supposed to do, the minute you leave that location towards maybe the headquarters, towards the
where there's internet or network,
as you're moving, it would. But let's not give an opportunity for manipulation, because unfortunately that is what Nigerians are constantly afraid of. We had a report recently where we discussed how young people said there's no need even trying to vote.
Even come out to vote.
Why vote when I am sure that who I voted for will not win? Not because he does not deserve to win, and not because he's not popular and was not voted for, but because even when he wins, certain individuals will manipulate. And these are those issues that I feel that Nigerians, I don't think Nigerians understand whose job it is to do what. I understand that this National Assembly, the 10th Assembly, has a very good relationship with the presidency, the executive, but it's now pointed at the president. Everything that's going on, the president wants to manipulate elections. Why don't we hold individuals whose job it is, and then sit down, listen to these conversations from those who agree, who agree that we should have prime time, premium time, what it called now real time, or whatever the words want to use to describe it. We could have those two people side by side, asking for a dialogue. Let's sit down and have a dialogue on how we should address these issues. The concern also that when the prime time cannot work because of infrastructures, and then now. I understand that concern. Nigerians understand the concern, but it doesn't mean that we cannot have it. We should have it completely expunged and allow for manipulations. We have not addressed another issue in our our electoral process, that process of violence that often happens. If you are not transmitting real time, or if you expunge even the term real time from it, and intimidations come, it makes it even harder.
Intimidation is basically one of the reasons why most people did not go out to vote last election, because it just felt like a particular party was winning. We have in different communities, we have like, this particular place is for this party, and then if you are coming and they are monitoring you, are like, okay, if you don't vote for this party, then you would be dealt with. So that intimidation, the violence is one of the basic reasons why. Yeah, it happened in where I even voted. It happened there because people had to, at last minute, people were changing their decisions, because it was like, if you don't vote for this particular candidate, then you would be injured. Not even like you would even have the chance to walk away.
Exactly, it was not negotiable. It was so bad. It now reawakened and incited regional tensions. Lagos is not for the eastern part of of the country.
Everybody started saying,
all of a sudden we now remember that you are from the west,
from Lagos. The east. Then the Lagos people were claiming that they own Lagos, and then people that had stayed in Lagos, they were like, it was just a case of you not being Lagosian enough, or you not being Yoruba enough, or
that's why you're not voting.
That's why you're not voting. So it just made it look more of a tribal situation than an actual political situation, which is not supposed to be so. Because regardless of my tribe, I should be able to like have the free will to vote for my desired candidate
at all
and
times.
not being
There's
coerced
something,
or
we keep
pressured.
talking about this issue. How is it that if I withdraw money from Lagos and someone wants to use for some magic, someone has opportunity to use that card simultaneously in Abuja, it reflects. You can no longer withdraw money because monies have been withdrawn. It reflects real time. How is it that our elections are becoming so cumbersome that these issues cannot be addressed? When it's a time where, because one of the justification by the legislators is that cyber attacks. I remember before the commencement of the last general elections, INEC came up to say that they had over 12,000 cyber attacks on the site. I expect it. In fact, 12,000. I thought 12,000 was quite low, because whether we want to agree or not, there are individuals who want to test their strength in manipulating the process. But
these strengths can actually be used in a positive way. If they can have, if those individuals can have the strength to manipulate results.
No, you're being naive to think. You're being naive to think everyone should just understand. Everyone should just know better.
I'm trying to see it in a positive light. I'm trying to see it as a way of making lemonades out of lemons.
Okay, so you bring them together.
Yes, and then let's make the system work. You have the knowledge. You have the knowledge to manipulate the system, right? Okay, now let us bring this knowledge together and actually make the system work and stronger.
Exactly. But your politicians don't want that. They know they do not have the popularity, and so guess what they do? They come together, they look for tech savvy young people and say, try to manipulate this, let's see how you can get me to win.
Okay, yes,
win the elections. That's and because you're paid handsomely, you're like, okay, I'll try my best. But what I'm driving at is that even America, halfway into the elections that brought about Donald Trump, he cried out to say, oh, there are glitches here, manipulations are happening. So I understand, but why can't we have indigenous methods and strategies that work for us and all of that? If the server is too huge for the number of electorate or voters, let's see what works for us. And these solutions are not far-fetched. And I know that next election cycle would be even more interesting to watch, especially as a journalist and one who reports on elections and everything around campaigns and all of that. AI has become even more evasive. Everyone now can manipulate. So it will be interesting to see how INEC handles that. There were several, when it wasn't as bad as it is now, or as good as it is now, depends on who you ask. We had people who clone election results and post it and start publishing it on the media. INEC will have to come out to say, please disregard, that is fake.
Now that we even have AI that can actually even create like a perfect
in seconds. So that is why I am all for bringing it there. Let us see that INEC has. INEC tells you that they have the facilities.
Yes, there should be a way to fact check these things, especially because now we know that we are in battle with AI when it comes to
of course.
So there should be a way to fact. There should even be a way to fact in real time, because during the election, we are not going to have the luxury of time to say, oh, let's check if it's
no. I mean, as journalists, we have been trained, retrained, and trained over again on how to use fact-checking tools, so that you do not, because it is often very critical. When reputable media organizations fall into the fray of publishing immediately, impulsively, like an average Nigerian. Everyone now is a journalist. So it is very critical that Nigerians trust reputable media, credible media organizations. So we must fact check. But the individuals who are gullible, who get notifications of this, do they know fact-checking tools? That is the problem there. Recently I went somewhere to get a parcel, and I overheard an obvious AI doctored video, and people gathered around this young man who was playing loudly a video of the president of the United States announcing his invasion of Nigeria, that he's coming here to save Nigerians, he's coming to invade Nigeria, and people gathered there, and I was almost screaming. I'm like, that AI is fake. Please disregard. And the video went on.
It's because of your own journalistic knowledge.
I didn't have to be there. If I wasn't there, nobody in that group that I saw there had any inkling that they could do a fact check. They could try check anywhere else. They had started talking about, although humorously, talking about how not to go Niger, or not to go this. But the fundamental issue to address here is how far technology has gone at the moment, and we're coming to an elections where INEC has already told you that it is only 7% of the population that they have the facility to transmit real time in 93% of this case. So is it because of the 7% that you remove the real time component to it? If it is just 7%, for crying out loud, I would think that infrastructures will be built to ensure that we now have the facilities so that the 7% will not be there will be no manipulation, and there will be transparency in the 7%, so that the 7% are also given an opportunity to enjoy real-time transmission of results. And who says that elections, because of elections, infrastructures are built in those areas, because of that it's a bad thing? It's always a good thing to have a wider dragnet of people who have access to the internet, of people who have access to digital facilities. Imagine young people who are growing up in that place. You know how cut off they are from everything going on. I remember a friend who visited his hometown and has to travel to be able to make calls and do bank transactions each time. In his local community, he does not enjoy internet.
Okay, so now that election is coming and then those facilities will be built in these local communities, is
no plan. I'm just saying that ideally, if INEC has admitted that it is only 7% of communities or the population that they are unable to reach out to access to, I would say that is where if the legislators had good intentions, I would say that is where they should now look into to ensure that it works
in those communities,
to ensure that it works in those communities, to ensure that infrastructures are built so that the 7% would also enjoy, instead of taking us back in time to say we will remove real time. And so Nigerians again do not expect it at all. And I remember the last time INEC came up to say, and then one of the components why people are out in the street is because the law gives the INEC the prerogative to pick and choose whether or not to upload at all in real time. That would not help the already volatile thoughts that Nigerians have of our electoral process. But it's good to know Nigerians are interested, Nigerians are discussing these issues. It's interesting to see that young people are speaking out for what they think is not justice, is not going to help the electoral system. And for that alone, I am excited that we are seeing the participation, the voices, the engagements happening, and it gives me hope that the coming elections will not be one that is rife with apathy. We would see more engagement of especially young people. With that, I say thank you so much for watching today's edition of Razep Africa. As always, I am really excited for this. Symbiat, thanks for keeping me company on today's edition.
Thanks for having me. It's been an interesting conversation.
Absolutely. I hope you have been better off listening to what's going on across Africa and especially Nigeria. With that, I say have yourself a wonderful rest of the day. We will be back tomorrow for more. Have a good day.
Welcome to Razep Africa, the heartbeat of the continent in one show. Here, we celebrate Africa not as a headline, but as a home full of ideas, courage, flavor, and future. This is where we talk about everything Africa. The politics that shape our nations, the innovations that shift our economies, the culture that colors our lives, the challenges we face with honesty, and the victories we are building one story at a time. On this show, no topic is swept aside. We are unfiltered and we are intentional. We bring you experts from across the continent and the world. Voices that know, voices that live the African experience, voices that are shaping the next chapter of our story. Let your spirit rise. We don't just tell Africa's story, we own it. Join Joy Asonye on Razep Africa, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 12 noon on Global Television.